about the signs. I know that supposedly your sign ordinance is on the agenda for tonight, I think. I hope you guys can work through it and make it simpler, make it easier. I know the Bull is not the first person to have an issue with the signs. And when you get it fixed, put your boat back out, put your banners back out, put your signs back out, do it all. Nobody cares. I mean, it's 2024. The things that get passed in society are pretty degenerate compared to a sign. So that is just my request. I hope you guys can fix this. The reason I brought up the pardon is because, as you know, when someone is being criminally charged or there's a criminal case, their lawyers are going to tell them that they cannot speak to the opposing side. So it's one of those things where her lawyer has to talk to your lawyer. If you drop the criminal case, you guys could all come together and fix it without lawyers being involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who'd like to come up and speak? All right, seeing none, I do have one communications that was sent to me, to the city clerk. It's from Steve Cicerelli, and he just says, I think the Bull at Domenico's needs to stay. It has been there for many years. I think the mayor needs to drop all charges and fines to Domenico's. The city has many other issues than the Bull. The Bull has never caused any harm to the public, and the public wants it back. Mr. Cicerelli, I could not agree anymore. There have been no fines implemented, and that is going to be on tonight's agenda, so hopefully you'll stick around for the meeting. All right. Before we move on, anybody else like to speak? All right, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. I need to remember to look at my computer screen. Has the board had a chance to review the minutes from the Board of Aldermen meeting of November 7th and November 12th and the bills list from November 21st, 2024? And do I have any additions, corrections? Or if not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve as the minutes were amended.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker. All those, Ross. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Consent agenda has been approved. First item of business is Bill 24-74, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a service agreement with Huber and Associates for IT managed services for cybersecurity, networking, and phone support. This is the second reading. Michael Bean, IT specialist, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the board. I don't have anything further. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I do recommend approval. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions from the board? Alderman Osteen.
I've got a few. On our blue sheet, on the budget line information, it states fiscal year 25 and what has been budgeted, and it shows that we're already negative 66,296. Is this a 24 or 25 budgeted item?
I guess I don't really understand what you're asking. This is a fiscal year 25 budget item. I'm trying to figure out exactly where you're asking about being over budget.
Well, on the blue sheet, it is our budgeted amount is 157,200. Expenditures to date 66,296. I'm just a little confused on the math.
You know where's that? Right here.
66,296 is what we are currently at in our 1019-733-800 line item as of when this was submitted for this year. So we spent 66,000 so far this year. 2025 estimated budget, or the amount would be 157,200.
So this is a carryover we're approving now for 2025 budget.
This is the 66 is what has been paid to Forward/Technologies, and pending the approval, the 157 would be what would be paid to Huber and Associates.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify what is going against our 2024 budget versus 2025.
I don't know why that printed like that. I don't know, Tara, do you?
I have to look at it.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second here.
I think, because those expenditures to date, like Michael said, when I pull up Encode here, I can see that was the expenses for 24 to date, and we're talking about an expense that's going to be in 25, so I'm not sure why that.
Yeah, if it was, I apologize if it was a clerical issue,
error.
but that's where we're at in fiscal year 2024 with the 157,200 for the fiscal year 25.
All right, I'm just trying to clarify once again on what year and dollar amounts are being budgeted,
Yes, sir.
2024 versus 2025.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just think it was just a clerical error. I don't think that bracket was supposed to be put in there.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Varela?
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yes.
All right, second reading, Bill 24-74 passes. Next, we have Bill 24-75, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, establishing and providing for the election procedures to be followed for the general municipal election to be held on April 8, 2025 in the City of Osage Beach, Missouri. This is the second reading. City Clerk Tara Barrett, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I have nothing further for this. This is strictly, again, just to hold our general election for April of 25. I recommend approval.
All right, any further comments or questions from the board? Alderman Rucker.
Clarification. Are we following the procedures where many people come in the first day? There'll be a drawing to see who's on the ballot first, second, and third. Is that something we have to do every year, or did we establish that as part of our ordinance?
As you established that as part of your ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second? Alderman Ross, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Varela?
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
All right, Bill 24-75 passes. Last item of unfinished business is Bill 24-76, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to sign a change order number 1 with Capital Paving and Construction LLC for Osage Beach Parkway Extension Project for an amount not to exceed $1,450. It's Drew Bowman.
Mayor, members of the board, as it was presented last time, this is a routine change order for a safety item to make sure that this project could be delivered to plan and as safely as possible. If you guys have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Osteen.
Just a general question, I'm not sure directed to who, but if the change order is only the amount of $1,450, why is that not just a city administrator decision?
I believe that this is a not to exceed contract amount, and there's no provision in a MoDOT project for a force account item without a change order. So there's no line item to do this routine sort of adjustment without doing a full change order.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Alderman Ross.
So since it's a MoDOT project, does that mean that the change order is a shared cost?
I don't
Or
believe so.
MoDOT shared
It's-
project,
it's,
I'm sorry.
well, the way a cost share program works is that it's pretty much a set grant amount that they are reimbursing us for.
So this amount would be borne completely by the city? As you understand it, at least at this point?
As I understand it, yes.
Okay. And so I struggled just a little bit with this change order. I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I apologize bringing it up in the second reading. Maybe that's sometimes good why we have second readings. I understand change orders for things that couldn't be seen or for drawings and plans that weren't accurate, okay? This is above the ground. I completely understand when you're dealing with things that are below the ground. Can't see them unless you do a lot of drilling and coring, okay? But this is above the ground. So I'm just trying to figure out, and Drew, you gave me a lengthy email that I responded back. You probably didn't have time to respond back after I did. And so my question is was there some, for lack of a better term, fuzziness in the construction drawings that this contractor because usually things like this, in my mind at least, are the contractor's responsibility.
Yeah, so
And just because, if you can finish, I've seen it happen too many times, just because they didn't think of it or they didn't take the care, they want to transfer that cost to the person that's contracting for the work, and that's not something I care to do, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the plans did not detail highway, or the expressway, Highway 54, or the size of the shoulder. I think the plans assumed that the guardrail would be done from the shoulder, which is a logical assumption. It just happens that where this guardrail was being installed and the curve and limited sight distance, that it was safer to do a lane drop. And having been out on the project, I'm glad that we did, because live traffic was shying away onto the shoulder, into the rumble strip anyway, even with the lane drop. And it's always better to err on the side of safety in this case.
Oh, I completely agree. I have no concern that the decision for that lane drop should have been made, okay? You've seen it, trust that. It's whether or not there should have been accountability up front in the original contractor's pricing, okay? Because, for example, Google Earth, you can easily Google in. I realize the contractor may not be here. Your email spoke about the fact there's few of these and they don't, just for small projects, run down and look, but that's why people have Google Earth and so on and so forth, that they can do things and measure. So with that said, I still have some concerns about this, but I don't know that we're going to resolve it at this point, so we should just move forward. That's all I have.
Alderman Rucker.
Drew, was this an error on the contractor or an error on the architect for not spelling it out properly in the bid specifications and everything?
I don't know that it's an error on, I mean, I guess if I had to pinpoint an error, it was probably, yes, on the design plans not being more specific, not more, specific on how this was to be constructed, although means and methods are usually on a contractor. I think it's just a routine adjustment that, we should have had, just period, we should have, in the plans, we should have had a lane drop called out. I don't have a great answer. I think it's kind of on everyone, right? It's on the design, it's on the plans, it's on the contractor, but at the end of the day, public perception, if we were to have had a crash, would have been pretty negative on the city. And I don't know that there's any one particular thumb to put down on this particular error, but it's a very routine adjustment. It's something that these types of plans can't foresee every single intricacy, and it's something that is very routine. Adjusting traffic control is a very routine adjustment on almost every heavy highway construction project I've ever been a part of.
Well, thanks. And the only other thing I say is, had this been a typical contract that we normally would do, we wouldn't be addressing it, because we'd had a contingent amount of money in there that would have taken care of this. But
Correct.
so,
Alderman Hoffman.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say that, this is, whoever the error was with, this is a pretty cheap way to learn where maybe our hole was and to do it better next time. I kind of look at that as a $1,400 learning expense. So I want to support it. Maybe just let's do a little better job next time vetting it. My thoughts.
Any other comments or questions?
well, I will make one more, because I was going to bring this up probably in another month or two when we pay the bill. But as far as I'm concerned, there's a nice enough piece of mistake that's on the architect. And this architect has not been, as far as I'm concerned, the architectural engineering firm that did this has caused us a lot of problems, has caused us delay, and I would hope that we would seriously look at them next time if they choose to participate in bidding on any of our stuff. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Barilla, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Barilla.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Rose.
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
All right, Bill 24-76, second reading passes. On to new business, we have Bill 24-79. An ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to approve a contract with McGuire Iron, Inc. for the Passover Water Tower interior painting project for an amount not to exceed $139,000. Again, Drew Bowman, engineer.
Mayor, members of the board, this project is a really needed project to keep the Passover Water Tower in good working condition, maintaining the asset, moving forward and extending its life so that we can have more mitigated maintenance on it in the future, and so that we're not replacing actual steel and we're just replacing the coating on this tower on the inside. My recommendation is to approve.
Comments, questions from the board? Alderman Rose.
Is this done on every one of our water towers? I mean, periodically, or is it, I just wondered why this was chosen.
Yeah, so all coated structural steel, which is the inside of
On an
this-
annual basis?
No. This should last decades. But all structural steel is painted so that it doesn't rust. And when steel rusts, you lose its ability to bear the load that you want it to. And so this just prevents any of that rust from occurring.
Does
getting
this
worse.
need also, well, we need to go back, and I know we've also gone and repainted the outside of water towers. And is it due to have that done also?
It's not due currently. So we just did a tower cleaning project, which removes a bunch of the grime and helps protect
Right.
the paint. But this is on the inside of the tower. But eventually, yes, we will have to repaint the outside of the tower as well.
So how do you know, I mean, certainly I wouldn't know, on the other water towers, of when it's time to do this interior cleaning? I mean, can you tell by the water or what?
Well, its general age is a good indication of, we should be on a scheduled maintenance program that does this every so often. Like I said, it should last for a decade or more. But then we also have the ability to run a camera inside the tower, or, you visually inspect it and see how the coating's doing.
So you have on a regular maintenance program?
That would be ideal,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Barilla. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, first reading, Bill 24-79 passes. Next, we have Bill 24-80, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri. Sorry, I'm learning my computer stuff here. An ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri City Administrator to sign a change order number 1 with Construction Concept Corporation for Osage Beach City Park Restroom Project for an amount not to exceed. Am I screwing up? Oh, all right.
It's okay, we can do it later.
Okay, we'll go back to that. Thank you. Now, where was I? For the Osage Beach City Park Restroom Project for an amount not to exceed $2,380.50. This is the first and second reading. Again, Drew Bowman.
Mayor, members of the board, so this is a change order in order to correctly build the city park bathroom addition. The background of which, in the original design for this addition, the slab and the foundation for the addition was supposed to tie in structurally with dowels into the foundation of the city park's maintenance building. There is an assumed foundation to be underneath the slab on grade for the building. However, upon inspection and digging, there is not a foundation for the slab on grade for the city park's maintenance building. So this change order would be to construct a foundation for that slab on grade so that the new addition can properly dowel in and tie into that foundation and prevent any future change of settlement so that there wouldn't be any sort of separation from the addition from the old building. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. I do ask for approval.
All right, questions from the board, comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Hoffman, everybody awake? Do I have a second? Alderman Rose. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any
Such
opposed?
a no-brainer. I was already reading the next ordinance.
All right, since we're all asleep, including myself, I am going to move back, we're going to go back to the financial update, which,
We need second reading.
Yes, second reading.
oh my gosh.
Are you awake?
I don't know.
Okay.
My apologies, folks. All right, we're going to move a second reading, same bill. We have, I'm sorry, here we go. Bill 24-80, an ordinance to the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, City Administrator to sign a change order number 1 with Construction Concept Corporation for Osage Beach City Park Restroom Project for an amount not to exceed $2,380.50. This is the second reading. Comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
Alderman Morella.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Ross. Yes. Alderman Rowe.
Yes.
All right, now, if you don't mind, we're going to move back up to what I missed earlier, was a financial update. Is that you, Carrie? Who would like this?
No, that's me.
You would like this, all
Yeah.
right.
Where we at?
Mayor and members of the board.
I'm sorry, we're right above unfinished business. I had missed it
Oh.
earlier.
I didn't see it
You
either.
missed it too, all right,
I
good.
missed it too. Oh. And I don't have a computer.
So this is a new item that I've asked to be added to the second meeting of every month to provide you guys kind of an update financially. I know that this was included in the previous city administrator's report, but I've kind of gotten the idea that maybe that's not the way the board would like me to continue. So I thought this was an easy way to kind of highlight our financials at the moment. So as of our sales tax received in November, which is for the month of September, we are at $5,869,066, which is 8.1% over what we were at last year at this time. And of that 8.1%, 4.4% is accounted for in the marijuana tax. So far, we have gotten $258,945 of marijuana tax. So we're looking good for this year. Our budget was 6.25 million, and we're at 5.86 million. So we will definitely exceed, I expect to exceed the budget. And this is our first full year seeing the marijuana tax. So it's equaling out to be about 4.4% of our sales tax.
Very good.
Does anybody have any questions about?
Questions? Alderman Ross?
Just a quick question, the worksheet, the Excel spreadsheet that there used to be a link for on the city's website, there may still be, is it still there that has this history and detail that?
I don't think so, because I haven't sent it to anybody. I have it on my computer, so.
It would be helpful if we could
Yeah.
keep that up or get it forwarded to us either
Sure.
way. I don't mind accessing it through the website, but that's.
I can do that.
It shows a lot of trends around sales tax revenue over time.
Yep, I can do that.
Very good.
If I could.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yeah, actually, this is just a question to Cole. I think I know the answer, but I'm just looking for a little clarification. There's a circuit court ruling about what municipalities or counties could do it, could take in the tax. Does that affect us in any way?
No, it does not affect us. The ruling you're referencing is an Eastern District ruling from a little over a week ago, I think. Doesn't affect us because it was a challenge in St. Louis County, City of Hazelwood, and county both wanted to collect their 3%. The county won in county court, but they were reversed in the Court of Appeals in St. Louis. So the concept is commonly called stacking. So in other words, how many taxes can you stack on top? The marijuana amendment was actually quite clear on how that was to be set up. There's only one 3% marijuana tax no matter where you go. So if you're in the city, the city's tax applies. If you're outside the city, the county's tax applies. So no, it didn't affect us. Hazelwood got to keep their money no matter what. It was just that the counties were trying to tack an extra 3% on top of that. St. Louis and St. Charles County both were in that lawsuit. They lost. Now that it's fresh enough that it could go up to the Supreme Court, but I read it and I kind of thought it was kind of obvious based on the language of the amendment. So hopefully it shouldn't really affect us, but we now have a definitive ruling in case, if either Camden or Miller County were to say that their 3% applies, there's a very clear edict on that now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Alderman
Is
Rucker.
that an old case? Because when we passed I remember reading that and reading into that and discussing it when we passed our tax because there was a question on it.
There are other stacking
okay.
cases. This one was specifically about the marijuana tax and all the language. This one was real clear because they actually accounted for that in the marijuana amendment. So they never left, I think it's Article 24 or 26 of the Constitution, they never left the marijuana amendment for their analysis. They didn't have to go pull language from somewhere else. The marijuana amendment was self-contained on that. So, it's a November ruling. So earlier this month.
Very good. Anybody else have any questions for Devin? Alderman Rucker.
I would just ask, I think what Alderman Ross was talking about, I'm the old paper guy, and even if you just email it, I'll print it off and put it myself. The other thing is I was kind of holding off for a couple more months, but are you looking for some input on some of the things that we like to see on a regular basis as far as the report? Because I very much enjoyed an awful lot of the stuff that we had received. I read it regularly, and there was a lot of valuable information in that report as far as I was concerned. So, that's my 2 cents worth. I mean, there was a lot of valuable stuff there. The information from all the departments where we could go in and look at that was very valuable to me.
Absolutely. I just thought it was an awful lot of stats, and I thought that would be more of like a end of year, maybe a mid-year, end of year type of thing. But I'm totally open to.
Maybe we can reach in the
Looking at-
middle. Maybe we can get at least quarterly.
Yeah.
I'd like monthly, but I'm negotiable.
Okay.
Quarterly.
Yeah.
Alderman Ross.
One comment on that, I'll just say that the sales tax revenue alone, I found that's probably the only thing that I found valuable on a monthly basis.
Right.
But as, things start moving and the year unfolds and things like budget amendments and so forth come up and you start making decisions about the following year, having the up-to-date information on the sales tax revenue is handy. That's the only thing that I feel is necessary on a monthly basis, but there may be other needs that I don't have.
I will get that updated tomorrow,
No worries.
Super.
and I'll email it out.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Devin. All right, we'll move back to new business. On to Bill 24-81, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending ordinance number 23.90, adopting the 2024 annual budget, transfer of funds for necessary expenditures for insurance settlements. This too is the first and second reading. April Wright, Assistant City Administrator.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board, thanks to Alderman Rucker for reminding us that one-time revenue appropriation greater than $5,000 does need to come to the board. So this is just the revenue side of the budget amendment that Chief Davis brought to you to replace that police interceptor that was involved in the crash and the fire on August 31st. So we did receive an insurance settlement check totaling $85,464.49 for the vehicle and the equipment. So this is just amending that revenue piece that was budgeted at $0. So we'll bring that up to $85,464.49. So I recommend approval and can answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? Alderman Ross.
So just from a streamlining standpoint, I have no concern with what we're doing here, but to be quite honest, if we're over $5,000 each month in our budgeted sales tax revenue. I don't think we should do budget amendments. And so and Kevin, I'm not saying that you think we should do this, but I'm trying to understand the need for something like this go ahead, so please.
No, I was the instigator of the amendment or the ordinance change back year, 2 ago, whatever. And the reasoning behind it is with the sales tax, if we budget, I'm going to pick a number, we budget $10 million. And the fact that we budgeted, $1 million of it for 1 month and we got a little bit more, a little bit less, that's no big deal, because the ultimate bottom line to the budget is we budgeted 10 million, and at the end of the year, we're going to be, up or down. This situation is a primary example of why I asked for that amendment, or for that ordinance change. When you look at the big picture, the bottom line is the budget at the end of 2024 is going to have a balance of X number of dollars, okay? Well, since we had an unknown budgeted, or since we did an unapproved and unknown budget expenditure of about $80,000, Chief?
Okay.
About $80,000 because of a loss that we obviously didn't have planned or anything. The budget is going to show a deficit of more money because we spent more than what we said we would. And the reason I requested that this be put in there is because the only reason we spent more is because we got more. And we got a specific amount for this loss. The same analogy would be is if we end up entering a contract with someone to provide, say exactly what it is. If we enter a contract with Ballpark National next year in 2025 to provide, we enter an agreement with them, we're going to have a X number of dollar revenue increase, but we're also going to have revenue expense. So to help the bottom line at the end of the year, so that the budget is balanced, because you did have more revenue, but you had more expense. We've amended the budget for the expenditure, so I think we should amend the budget for the revenue. That was the theory.
Okay.
And because it's a one-time.
Yeah, it's a one-time. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's all I have, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading? Alderman Barella, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, first reading passes. Now second reading, same bill, Bill 24-81. An ordinance to the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending ordinance number 23.90, adopting the 2024 annual budget, transfer of funds for necessary expenditures for insurance settlements. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose, roll call, please.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yes.
Alderman Barilla?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
All right, second reading passes Bill 24-81. Next item, we have a motion to ratify the city's mission statement by the mayor and the Board of Aldermen. I believe this is on you, Tara, isn't it?
It is, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Oh, sorry, I got to turn my mic on. This is the mission statement that we have to do every year. It ratifies, just readopts our mission statement to have all of the new aldermen that were elected sign, and it goes into the budget for 2025. I recommend approval. Motion, please. Thank you.
All right, comments from the board, Alderman Osteen.
So,
Just a few comments, and this goes to Devin. Normally, as part of the budget process, we discuss the mission statement to see if we want to adjust it or revise it in any way. It wasn't part of this year's discussions because it's not an ongoing year over year just approving it. It's brought up as part of the budget discussions on whether we want to revise that.
I was not aware of that.
remember
I've read
correctly,
all
yes,
of them in the
because-
past, and they
I was
were
not
all
aware of
the
that either.
same.
Yes, every year we discuss it because we did revise it about 3 years ago.
We talked about it somewhere last
Change some
year.
of the verbiage. I thought that was part of the budget seminars.
I believe, Bob, that's part of our retreat. I think that's where
Strategic
we had done
planning.
it.
Strategic planning, I
Or
think.
strategic planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. It's not been part of the budget process, I think, but we have done it, Bob. I think it's been at the retreat.
I don't believe we discussed it at the retreat for strategic planning, but
This year.
anyway.
Not
it
this
wasn't.
year, we didn't, no,
Not
but
this year.
What I'm saying is moving forward, yes.
if it's something that you want to, if you want to do this tonight, we need to have this done before we do the budget at the end of the year. But if it's something that you want to re-amend or readjust, we definitely can redo it at any time, readopt a new mission statement anytime you want to. So if it's something that you want to put on in January or February, we can do that. But no, we've never.
I'm fine with it
Yeah.
as is. I'm just
Okay.
trying to wrap my head around when do we actually revise it, or it's brought up again to see if we do want revisions and it wasn't done in this past year as strategic planning or as part of the budget sessions.
Yeah, we can bring it up at strategic planning if you'd like.
And it had been the same for years, but I was served on that committee, I think it was 2 years ago when Gina was revising. It had been the same for so long. And then like 2 years ago, she got a little committee going and then also talked to you all and changed it because I was set on that committee, so.
Okay, just a comment and just trying to clarify when we actually review this.
Yeah.
I can answer that because it was one of my first meetings when I became mayor. So a little over 2 years ago is when we discussed it, so. But it sounds like we'll put it on the retreat for next year if that's a general consensus.
All right, that's all.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, do we need a motion to
You do-
ratify it?
you
Do
need
I
a
have a
motion.
motion to ratify it?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Morose, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Passes, thank you. Last item of business is a discussion on the signage ordinance, and I'm going to turn this over to Alderman Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the end of last weekend, I think it was Friday, I got a call from Alderman Ross. We were discussing not just the bull, but some other cases that we knew were out there. And it started to become pretty obvious to me that we had a bigger problem than just the bull. At that time, Richard and I kind of got on the same page, called the mayor, and started talking about what we thought we should do to try and solve not just the bull, but the ordinance issue that exists throughout our city. This ordinance was written, I believe, in 1999, and quite frankly, it's out of date, in my opinion. And I think we all knew this to some degree. Just a little history on this, that the signage and ordinance was turned over to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I think it was right around the time I got elected. And they dove into it, and they did it for months. And credit to them, they actually tackled a pretty large problem, a pretty big entity, and they made some headway. But one thing that came out of it for sure was, I think there were 8 or 10 people on that committee, and they ended up with 8 or 10 different opinions. And that is a microcosm of Osage Beach on this topic. If you go out and talk to 20 different business owners, you're probably going to get about 20 different opinions. So we knew that that was an issue then, and I will take accountability for this. When we found that out, we, talking to a few other aldermen, didn't think it was the right time to try and deep dive into it, because we're going through the most complicated budget in the history of Osage Beach. We have some new staff members, so we knew our process was going to be long. And in my opinion, the budget has to be priority number one whenever it's time to do the budget. So the thought and the philosophy was to tackle signage and ordinance at the first of the year. Still think that that was a pretty good plan in retrospect. However, the bull brought to light that we've got a bigger issue here. And I commend our staff for going out and doing their jobs. This was not something they did that was popular. They did what they were supposed to do. And it's been waved out there on social media and in the public that the mayor or the board should go down and tell the staff how to do their jobs. And one, that's not our role. We're not supposed to do that. And two, I completely trust our staff. We have a fine staff here. I'm not going to do that ever. What I will do is look at an ordinance that I think is out of date and try to find a way to bring it up to date to help every business in Osage Beach, not just the bull, but all of them. So that being said, I look at the bull, and I love the bull. I've been going to Domenico's for 30 years. One of my best friends I played a Little League with worked there for 30 years. I never had any intention of going over and looking him in the eye and telling him he had to move the bull. That was never going to happen. So when people are out there chanting, "Save the bull," Osage Beach was never trying to get the bull to go away. We were trying to get the bull in compliance. And our staff was trying to do that with an ordinance that I believe is out of date, and they really couldn't get it done that way. So rather than trying to, and we had to let the staff have time to try and do their jobs with the ordinance written the way it is. And I commend all of you for trying to do that. My suggestion is, because I never had a problem with the sign either, and I didn't know it was out of compliance until about a year ago. Well, my first thought too was, well, why is it out of compliance? Doesn't really look bad to me. I kind of like the way this looks over here. So problem number one to me is the sign. So I would suggest that we allow every business in Osage Beach to have 2 signs rather than 1, update our ordinance to that, and get all of the businesses in Osage Beach compliant with that new standard, and that become the new standard of Osage Beach. I think it's time for that to happen, and that's where I think the sign ordinance needs to land. I would have liked to have done this in January or February, but I think the community has spoken pretty loudly, not just on social media, but I've been out talking to people in public. I've been going and talking to other business owners to get their feedback on it. And I think that the right thing to do is to be proactive and move this up the priority scale and get it done now. So problem number one is the sign. I have no problem with us amending our ordinance to having 2 signs for every business in Osage Beach. That's helping the bull, but that's helping everyone. And I could name 3 or 4 off the top of my head that I know that would be our next bull. And then there's our next bull, and then there's our next bull. And I don't want to be the city to be in conflict with businesses that have been here for 30 years. So let's get an ordinance that makes sense for everybody. The second issue is the trailer, and it still needs to be safe and secure. Now, I'm not a structural engineer, but I can look over there and look at that trailer and think it's pretty small for that big bull. And it is on a fairly substantial grade and incline. I don't want it rolling down into the street. I don't want it blowing over in the wind and falling on someone. I also don't think it needs to be secured for an F5 tornado. I don't think there's going to be anyone taking pictures when a tornado's coming through. So I think we need to find something that makes sense, not just for the bull and that trailer, but for everyone. Does it need to be secured to the ground? Does it need to be on a bigger trailer with a strong foundation? Does it need to be just chucked around every tire? That's something I think that our staff should work out, our city engineer and city planner, building, Cole, everybody. I think that's something that they should put their heads on and come up with something that's logical. I look around and see a lot of trailers in Osage Beach, and they're secured with chucks. If the grade and the incline is not too much, I think that's enough. But I'm not a structural engineer, and I don't think it's the position or the duty of the board to make that decision. We should just approve what our staff comes up with. And the third thing is the court case. And to that, I never wanted to see it go to court. The continuance was asked for by the board and the mayor and agreed to and delivered by Cole Bradbury. And we thought that was the right thing to do for both parties to have more time to solve this issue. So this is how I think we should solve the issue. As far as the legal matter, I leave that to the mayor and to Cole. I know that I'm going to speak frankly up here. I don't want to see it to go to court. And I'm a big supporter of the bull and all of our businesses in Osage Beach. This is how I think we should solve it. And that being said, I'd like to hear from the rest of the board and our mayor on it.
All right, comments from the board. Alderman Rose.
I question your thought about having businesses having 2 signs. First of all, being a previous business owner in this area for many years, signs are expensive. And depending on their location and their property, I mean, we certainly can't go out and have them do it on the right of way, and maybe they don't have another spot. I mean, when you're saying 2 signs, Justin, it's going to have to be an optional thing, but then again, I think I've never seen that in any area I've ever been in. I don't understand it, because I just know if I was still in business, I think, I got to pay for another sign. I mean, they're expensive.
It's not mandatory, it's an option.
I understand that. I understand that. But I'd hate to have my competitor have two signs and me that I couldn't afford to have one.
Alderman Ross.
So I, over the years, with my previous career, dealt with sign ordinances and dark sky ordinances. And I will just say that I think our ordinance is not near as restrictive as many and not near as allowed as many. It is kind of in the middle, okay? I think what Alderman Hoffman is trying to say is that if someone wants to have two signs, I could support that approach, but I would say that there would have to be a limitation as to what that second sign could be. In other words, we have some distinctive, as I understand it, and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, please, you are allowed one primary sign, and the size of that sign is based on the amount of frontage, I believe, that you have on your street. Am I in the general ballpark there? Without, because I don't want to get in all the weeds here, okay?
Since you asked the question. It's not that you're allowed one primary, you're allowed one freestanding per frontage, okay?
One per frontage, right, but the
Okay.
size of that sign is.
Freestanding.
Right,
okay?
I understand.
But you can still have building signs and
Right.
that type
And
of
all
thing.
of that comes into play for the size of the sign?
The size of the sign is an equation that includes the size of your property, the size of your building, and the amount of road frontage that you have.
Okay, so there's a couple other variables.
Yeah.
And can I just
Go ahead.
briefly add to
Sure.
that? The equation is really important legally because it makes it non-discretionary, so we're not picking and choosing who gets how much signage. Oh, you know,
Fair enough.
we like this business, so we're gonna let them have a 20 by 80, but this one, you know, the equation is whatever we do, the equation is absolutely the right way to go because it is fair and
It's
objective
equitable.
and
That's-
equitable.
That's the way, it's like, so when
That's
you use
definable.
when you use the equation, you know, the basics of it is a store the size of Walmart is going to be able to have a lot more signage than, say, Casey's, okay? With the maximum size of any one sign for any of them being 200 square feet, okay?
Even the primary sign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
a 20 by 10.
Okay. So all I was going to basically try to say is that I don't believe that we should be able to, that I am not, at this point at least, comfortable with doubling the amount of square footage that a sign, that our sign would allow. I'm okay with adding a second sign being available, okay? I'm not sure all the specifics, and I think Alderman Hoffman's comments are correct, that we don't have all the answers, okay? That staff is going to need to look at some of those things, but the general concept of one primary sign is all that is allowed, which I think is what that we've been saying here.
One freestanding.
One freestanding, maybe that's a better way to put it, thank you, is something that we should look at adjusting, okay? And I have no concern with two freestanding signs, to say it accurately, but I do think that there has to be some restrictions on how big that second sign can be. There were times in my previous career where some of those more lenient type of sign places allowed for us to have a pole sign and a monument sign. There's Taco Bells out there, or used to be at least, that saw both because we were allowed to do so, and Taco Bell felt that signage was important enough that they maximized that, okay? But it sure wasn't required. Okay, and I don't think that it detracted. I never had anyone ever complain because we had more than one sign on our property. I do think that this was something, I do not know what was in Osage Beach in 1988 or 98 when that was passed, but apparently there was some cleanup that was trying to be done and some consistency at the time. And I think that we do have that cleanup and consistency, but I'd also think that we can add to it. I have had several complaints over the years that our sign ordinances were too restrictive. And so sometimes that was about pole signs, and sometimes that was about building signs, and so forth. And I always took the approach that's consistent. So until someone gives me a compelling reason why we should even address it, just stay with what we have because it's consistent, at least, and whether it's consistently unfair or consistently fair, it's still consistent. all right? I think that with all of the feedback that we've gotten over the last few months, one way or another, it's time to relook at that, because there may be some opportunity to provide some latitude within that ordinance. That's all I have at this point.
Alderman Rucker.
A couple of things.
Excuse me.
I feel that, as I'm sure I've soapboxed this statement before, our ordinances constantly need to be changed. You know, we just have to do it. It's just something that we need to do to keep them updated. It's something I've advocated for a long time. I've tried to do what I can from my perspective, and I just think we need to do a better job than what we have done, and how we break that up into different departments and staff be responsible for certain sections of it. You know, that's the bigger picture. And so that being said, that's the big picture. As we hone in on this particular situation, I don't have a problem with revisiting it. I'll be very honest. I did revisit it about a year and a half ago. After about half hour, an hour, I said, that's it, I'm done. It's too complicated for me. That's why we have a city planner. It's too difficult for me to try to wrap my arms around it. And I said, you know, no, I can't do it. To sit back and have some ideas, yeah, I have some ideas. My first one is that, you know, I don't care if they're 1, 2, or 3 signs. My bottom line is I only want so many square footage of signage on that property. And I am very much concerned with what Alderman Moreau said about the fact of the little guy or the other guy or the neighbor, his property not being visible. I've had the opportunity over the last number of years to do a lot of traveling across this country. And it's nice when you go into certain areas and have signage. It's very valuable, especially for tourists. And we are a tourist community, so it's very valuable. Good signage is. But let me tell you what, you don't want to be like Las Vegas. Try to find a sign in Las Vegas. It's all you see is signs. You can't even figure out what's going on there. So that's the other extreme we have to be cautious on. And as Alderman Ross said, you know, are we too lenient or are we too strict? Yeah, we try to be in the middle of the road, and I think, you know, that's where we have tried to be. There's another area that I have concerns about and didn't have as much until this recent incident showed up, and that is the grandfathered properties. I feel very strongly after this recently that we need to identify at some point in time the signage properties that are out there that are not in total compliance with our ordinance. And if they're not total compliance with our ordinance because they're grandfathered, which means they're okay to have it done because they're grandfathered, I think we need to identify those. We need to have a conversation with those owners to make sure those owners understand that, hey, your sign's okay right now, but if you choose to do basically what happened to the bull, I'm going to take the bull in, I'm going to replenish it, I'm going to repaint it. The same thing happened down on the strip with some of the big signage or the big Indians and different things. So the people are trying to keep their property looking clean, looking good, painted, et cetera, et cetera. Put it back out there, boom, now you're not in compliance. Well, you know, so if we have those that are grandfathered out there, I think we need to put those on our radar eventually to identify them, because those people are thinking that their signs are okay. To say that we've got a bunch of property out there and the signage is not in compliance, I don't know that. Maybe we have signs out there that don't meet our ordinance, but maybe they're also grandfathered. And as I said, I don't know what's in compliance. I am not in favor of just saying, okay, we're done. If we're concerned about making this project or this builder, or excuse me, this business do something that may be okay after we change the ordinance, I'd be willing to put a moratorium and give the staff and the board 3 to 6 months to work through this. That's, I think, a more reasonable approach rather than make a decision right now. The bull's okay, the signage is okay, the square footage is okay, we're done. Now, let's go toward, and then we find out that, well, wait a second, once we really look at it, no, it's really not okay, and now we got to come back to them and tell them, well, you know, now it's not okay. I think I think if there's some other issues out there, as Alderman Hoffman seems to believe and Alderman Ross seems to believe, I can't verify that, I don't know that, but I think the approach is a moratorium. And again, 3-6 months, I think, is reasonable. And then we develop, I would ask Devin to develop a strategy plan for us, as well as the board, as well as the staff, to move forward with what we need to do at what stage to reach our goal of having it taken care of and put in place and be done in the 3 or 6 months. So thank you.
Comments or questions? Yes, please.
Since Alderman Rucker, can I get clarification on moratorium, what you're talking about?
Well, my understanding of a moratorium is basically we wouldn't go out there and tell somebody else that maybe Alderman Hoffman thinks he found somebody else that's in violation. We wouldn't go out there and tell them that they're in violation and they got to make a change tomorrow because they're in violation of our ordinance, or our sign ordinance.
We don't do that anyway. That's not how this happened. I mean.
Well, I just don't want this, I just don't want somebody else to come out.
Moratorium would be us telling nobody else they can do a sign until the moratorium.
No, I'm not talking about the fact that.
But that's what it is. That's why I was like, woo.
No, I'm not saying that new business comes into town and wants to put a sign. They would comply with our ordinance as far as how they would put it in, et cetera, with the idea that, hey, we may be changing that second sign somewhere or another, and maybe moratorium is not the proper terminology, Cole.
I understand what you're trying to say.
But you understand where I want to go or where we want to go.
I would take into account possibly, if somebody's in violation of an area that might change, take that into consideration before proceeding with enforcement. And I get that. I think sitting here tonight, it's a little difficult to say, but once we have an idea of where the board's collective head is at and what direction you want to go, then I think once we have direction from the board, then I think we can certainly take that into consideration. Yeah, moratorium typically means, well, we're not considering any more sign applications.
I just want to make sure, because we got a lot of new businesses coming in that would freak out if I would said, hey, no signage for 6 months.
No, that's not my.
Okay,
no.
I didn't think so, but I wanted to clarify, so.
Maybe the terminology.
I understand the message, and yeah, same thing. We don't want to. Staff doesn't want to waste their time proceeding with an enforcement action that might, where the rug might get taken out of us, out from under. Where what they're doing might be legal in 6 months.
Exactly where I'm going.
I get that, and we don't want to spend our time on something like that either.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yeah, I would just like to say I agree with what Alderman Rucker said and Alderman Morose. I don't know if the sign on the bull is just too big to fit into an equation to where it would create a business down the street that was bigger to be able to just overpower a business next to them. We don't want that to happen either, and I agree with that. So, everyone out there in the public should understand as we discuss this that we want this to work for not just Domenico's. We want this to work for their neighbor and every neighbor up and down Osage Beach. I drive up and down Osage Beach, and I think it looks great right now. So I don't want a lot of it to change, but I want everybody to get in compliance. And I think rather than trying to get everyone out there to fit into our ordinance now, let's rewrite an ordinance that makes sense for how Osage Beach is in 2024, not 1999.
Alderman Barilla.
Well, I'd just say that I'm in favor of visiting the ordinance for the sign changes. I don't want to see the owner of Domenico's in court over that. But also, I feel like the staff has the expertise, and I would prefer them give a recommendation of what they would like to see to us.
Alderman Osteen.
I'm going to agree with the decision that we should probably review our ordinances regarding allowing secondary signage for businesses. I think Alderman Rucker brought up a good point that we need to go through the entire city and identify existing signage that does not meet current code. People keep talking about trying to grandfather things in, but I'm going to use Domenico's again as an example. Their current primary signage does not meet our existing code. If that sign were to be damaged or they decide to replace it, would they be allowed to rebuild that sign at its current dimensions? That goes back into, if you're grandfathered, that means the existing signage is grandfathered. Replacement signage, though, cannot meet those dimensions. So we're walking a fine line here, and it's a big gray area of domino effect of things that we should probably address in our codes. So first things first, let's revisit and talk about secondary signage and what that equation would look like. And identifying those businesses, once again, that do not meet current code, and possibly notifying them individually that should they replace existing signage, expand on it, remove it, whatever, that they would have to meet whatever new code or revised code that is in effect at that time. That's all.
Alderman Rose.
I was just going to elaborate again, and Justin, I totally agree everything that you had said, other than I'm still in a question about that 2 signs. Now, if we would allow the businesses to have a second sign, obviously, then the restrictions should be the size, should not be the same size letters and whatever as the main sign. I think it should be smaller, which I think you
Yes.
are concurrent with. And when I'm thinking of going down the Parkway and all of a sudden there's a lot of businesses are having 2 signs and they're very obvious. And then on top of that, then we've got these banners that are saying open, open and whatever. And I think, wait a minute, just how much can we get? People know where they are and you have a business, you advertise. If they want to put a second sign, let it be optional, like you said. But it's just something that obviously should not be as dramatic or as pronounced as the main sign. And the fact this main sign a lot of times is lit, internally lit. Maybe the second sign wouldn't be, just totally there by the building or whatever. I'm just throwing things out, but anyway, I'm okay. I just think we better be very careful of what we restrict them on.
Alderman Ross.
So first, I just want to kind of expand on some of my comments that I didn't address and should have probably in the first round. First of all, in my mind, the moratorium, I agree, would be around legal action, okay? And so at the end of the day, I will just say this. People agree with me or don't agree with me. The one goal that I've had since this conversation has started, and we've had conversations for 2 or 3 weeks but amongst us trying to figure out what we can do to save the bull, for lack of a better term, was that the owner should not be going to court, okay? And that's what I think I've heard a couple of 3 anyway so far say that they agree with that, and so that's what we need to figure out. No, I don't think that moratorium should be on any new signage. When it comes to moratoriums, not necessarily moratoriums, but grandfathering maybe is a better comment to say. I have seen cities do, because I ran into it whenever I was involved in maintaining facilities where they gave people a 5-year notice. I don't know that I agree with this, but they said within 5 years you have to become, here's your 5-year notice. And the way I found out about that, the place was, I mentioned to the mayor and Alderman Hoppin, Crystal Lake, Illinois. We got somebody sent a letter that ended up on my desk that said, you got 60 days to change out your monument sign. And that was, when I say monument, it was a pole sign. It was about 40 foot high and it probably had about 120 square feet or something of faces on the thing. Now, how does that happen? Well, by the way, Taco Bell, you were notified 5 years ago and you forgot to remember, okay? And so we had to take care of it. Well, that's the way they did it. That was their fair way of doing it in their mind. I'm not suggesting that, but people are trying to figure out what we do with grandfathering. That is one approach, okay? Give people sufficient notice. Cole, you may have some concerns with that, but.
We can't do that. No, see that, what you're talking about is a regulation that can be done in like Illinois or Kansas that are free will states. We are a charter state and we cannot do that.
Okay, good to know. It was not in Illinois, and if we can't do that, okay, well, that approach, I'm sorry I wasted everybody's time.
If the sign comes down in a storm, if you take it down, well, speaking of Taco Bell, we had that issue with Taco Bell. They took down a pole sign, I think, and they were above their allotted square footage by the formula, so they had to go back up with their correct number of square footage.
Right, they have a very small pole sign.
Right, because that lot's so narrow, is what shrunk that.
We can talk offline. There's some other factors involved in that too, how much building signage they chose to use and so forth. So the trailer secured, I'm not convinced, honestly, Alderman Hoppin, that chalks are enough, okay? I get the fact that nobody's gonna be taking a picture during an F5 tornado, but at the same time, I really don't want things flying around any more than they have to be when the 60 or 70 or 80 or 100-mile winds come by, because they create damage too. So that's not ours to decide tonight. I think that's why staff needs to be involved. But at the same time, I don't know that they have to be set up for a 200-mile-an-hour wind either. And signs on trailers, I have some concerns with, but maybe there's some ways that staff can figure out to allow that to still make them reasonably safe. And I just want to say that, staff has been given a set of ordinances, and their job is to enforce those ordinances, and that's what they were doing. And I get that, and I have no concerns with that, okay? I do think that we have to keep in mind this, though. We have a speed limit on Osage Beach Parkway. That's 45 miles an hour. And if we wanted to, we could park one of these, assuming the chief has that many staff, we could park somebody every mile down the road, and we could make sure that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no one goes over 45 miles an hour. But we don't do that, okay? And so I do think that we have to understand, and I know, Cole, that you're probably going to cringe a little bit, but at the end of the day, we don't necessarily have to enforce every single thing that is in that ordinance every single day, okay? And with that, I would just say this. I have never had a complaint because our signage ordinances were too liberal, for lack of a better term, or too loose. I've received many complaints because our signage ordinances were too restrictive, okay? And so as we think about what we're doing here, I hope that people can understand that the banners and flags that I apologize, there's been a lot of conversations here, the banners and flags and different things that are unique out there that exist today, okay? I've not had a complaint about any of them, okay? And so as we look at, and times have changed, and people have changed, and perceptions have changed since probably 1995 or whatever it was when this was passed, that there's some different public views about that. Do we want this to be Las Vegas? No, not really, okay? What's the nice little gray area in between? That's where we're all gonna have to work together, to be quite honest. But I hope that between all of us, we can find some ways that we can modify the existing ordinances so things like the bull can exist, and so that things like the flags that are out there that people aren't complaining about can exist, okay? And that we're not spending a lot of time taking people to court. Not that the staff shouldn't have done that. I just don't like the idea that enforcement is something that, from a signage standpoint, we spend a lot of time on. I think from a signage standpoint, from a quote, if you want to call it enforcement, that's what the permitting process is for, okay? We allow this. If you do this, great, okay? The challenge that we always deal with is some of the grandfather stuff. And I don't know that identifying all the grandfather stuff is the best way to do it. I just hope that we can find some ways to make sure that we can all be happy with the outcome of the bull being allowed, and that other signs along that line can be allowed in the future too.
Alderman Rucker.
One item, concern I have is non-verbalized signs. And what I'm getting at is, and I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Branson, okay? And I don't know, but when you go down the main strip in Branson, you see things in front of buildings other than verbiage signs. You see animals, you see things like that, but they don't have signage on it. I thought, and coming back to the bull, that if the sign was taken off there, the bull was okay. Okay, well, all right, well, I still have concerns though, because if we're in a tourist area, and if people are going to start going to that kind of advertisement to advertise their business without verbiage on the sign, then I don't know how, and I'm not asking for if it's okay, or I'm just want to make sure we identify that in our ordinance, that we don't allow them to, that somebody doesn't take advantage of that and putting all kinds of those figurines out there and think you can get by with that instead of signage. So I'm just concerned about that.
I want to point out that actually you can get by with that. I mean, Jeffries has the lobster. We think like the Indian on the Lake Ozark Strip, that would be illegal if Wobbly Boots wants to put a pig out. I mean,
no limitations on what they can do?
Like I've been saying from the beginning, the bull is legal. It's the sign that's on the bull and the trailer that's not. The bull itself is fine. The bull, if you take the bull off the trailer, take the sign off the bull's a lawn gnome. It's art. It's no different than the lobster sitting out in front of Jeffrey's.
Okay, well, I have concerns about them, but that's fine.
Well, sorry.
Alderman Osteen.
I was going to comment on that as well. That's called statuary, and we have no ordinances in the city regarding that. So that's a whole rabbit hole I'm not sure if we want to go down. There's nothing in our ordinances that says that Wally Boots can't put a big giant statue of a rack of ribs in front of them, or other businesses basically with just one symbol that designates what they sell. There's no ordinance or code in the entire city that basically addresses that. And once again, I don't think that's a path we want to go down.
Well, and typically, something like that is more generally addressed in like an aesthetics ordinance, and not it's typically addressed in like an aesthetics ordinance, as opposed to a sign ordinance, okay? So, you know, we kind of went the route, and a group of people, you know, wanted to look at the aesthetics ordinance, and it was not well received by, especially the business community, which is fine. That, you know, it's their community to take a handle on. But as far as you like what Bob said, you know, some of the classic examples, you know, would be like the Indian or you know, spent a lot of time in Springfield in school, and they had the one restaurant that had the huge fork out in front of it that, you know, was a huge fork. It wasn't a sign, didn't say anything on it. You know, and from the beginning with this issue, with the issue with the bull is been the sign. It's not been the bull. And I know people can say whatever they want about that, but if you take away the bull and just place the sign that's on the bull on a standard sign structure in the location that it was, you have, you know, 2 frontage signs that we would not have allowed anyone in the last 25 years to put up. And that's what I'm, you know, required to regulate per our code, you know, because I have told plenty of people, I mean, not a lot, I mean, most people don't want to put 2 freestanding signs, you know, on their one frontage, because candidly, if you know, stand on Highway 54, as it used to be when we put this ordinance in, or now Osage Beach Parkway, and if everybody had, you know, 2 freestanding pole signs on their frontage, whether they were, you know, had 500 feet of frontage or they had 50 feet of frontage, because we have that, it would be pretty cluttery. I mean, you would see signs all the way down, and we would lose a lot of, you know, like Justin's comment about the aesthetic nature of the parkway currently, you know, with pretty much all of them having one freestanding primary sign. There's, you know, they are still allowed to have, you know, a digital sign could be in a separate cabinet, a changeable letter sign, which, you know, we don't have many of those anymore. And a lot of times they're on the freestanding pole sign. But if they want one of those separate, they can have that separate, as long as it's a permanent sign and not one of those old school that has the legs and sits in a 5-gallon bucket of concrete. We don't allow those. But I think that more of the issue of what we're talking about, and I don't know what Alderman Ross's, you know, people are complaining about with the sign code to him, but I can tell you, you know, from my side, in, you know, the, I guess, 23 years that I've been in enforcing it, I can think of, you know, 3 real issues that I've had, where it was, you know, we had people that had real problems. Other than that, you know, typically people want to put in signs, and we go through everything that they can do with it, and you know, they do them. It's a simple situation of, you know, with the bull itself, since it's the main subject of the situation, that the signage on the side of it is so large currently, that, I mean, you not only have to change the idea of having the second, you know, freestanding sign, but we would have to substantially increase the size of signage that each individual business can put up at their location, because, you know, I would never use individual businesses to, you know, any other time, but since this is the main topic of conversation, Domenico's existing sign is a 20 by 10. So it's a 200 square foot sign that is grandfathered, or legal non-conforming is a planner's, you know, better terminology for it. But it was put up prior to, the sign code being put in 99. So it is a legitimate, legal, non-conforming sign. It is there, it can be there as long as it's there. If we get a tornado and it comes through and tears a bunch of stuff down, blows down that sign, then the next sign that they put up will have to meet the sign code requirements, just like everyone else's would. But that's part of what, when we put in codes, the ideology is that over an extended period of time, that at some point, the vast majority of your community, if not all of your community, is in conformance with the code. But it does not include, the city sending out letters to anybody who currently doesn't comply, that has a legal non-conforming, and saying, hey, you've got 30 days to comply. We will not do that. That's not something that Missouri, I believe, would allow, and that would be the last thing on earth I would ever suggest that this board do to its business owners. Because candidly, that sign that every one of these businesses put up, or each one of these business owners, when they buy their new facility, when they take over one of those businesses that, has served the city for a long time, but they've decided to retire, that sign that is there, it exists there at that location, is part of the asset that they're buying and part of the asset that they bought. They deserve the right to use that existing sign, and we allow them to do so. So I think that it's just, with the bull itself, it's a situation of, not how restrictive our code is. It's just that the bull in itself is iconic, and its mass is part of that, which is part of the issue that it faces on its own. So, again, I don't have an opinion on it. The sign code is something that definitely is a mirror of the community and what the community desires. I was not here when they went through the process and when they wrote the sign code initially. I will tell you that as far as the sign code itself goes, and anybody in a position like mine will tell you, it's that equitability equation, whatever you use. And ours is a very good equation because it takes in more than just your frontage. If you've got a good-sized building, a good-sized lot, and a little bit of frontage, you still get the benefit of having a good-sized lot and a good-sized building to give you some additional, side capacity. And it's using the 3 steps and the 3 parts of your facility and your asset itself to, determine your signage is actually probably the most equitable way that we can figure. That is the one part of the code that, we need to maintain. The one thing that I would say that you can do, if we want to allow there to be more sign capacity where people can have more signage, we just need to change those numbers a little bit that are part of that equation. And then as far as like all of the flags and those things go, yes, I will completely, I don't even remember who brought up the speed limits, but it's very much when a section of code is in that is like that, it's very much what I call a worst case scenario code. Okay, we have a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit that people go 65 all the time. We don't stop every one of them. We have something that in our code that says you can't put out. I don't think it specifically addresses flags. It just says signs with motion, but it specifically addresses streamers and a couple of different things. Those go up overnight. We don't require, permits for temporary promotional displays. What we have, on the board's behest been the most strict on is things that require permits. All those little signs, they go up overnight during the day, and we don't send people out to pull them out of the ground because that's not a good way to be good to your business community either. And I think that not only we understand that, but I know the board does as well. So all I would tell you is we are obviously more than happy to take whatever you all see and what you want done with the sign code, and to our best possible extent, you know, have it rewritten and put it in front of, well, the planning commission, because it'll have to go to the planning commission first, before it comes back here. But to make it a code that meets what you all want it to accomplish. That's why we're here. I don't have an opinion on it. Whatever you all have in the book that's in writing, that's what I'm going to, you know, enforce. So I guess that's what I would say. You tell us what you want and in these discussions, and we'll be happy to put out the product that'll get us where you want us to go.
Alderman Rucker.
Well, in trying to give the staff some direction, I guess one of my comments is, I think I'm hearing that we want the ordinance to be able to allow things like the bull. I've heard it said that there's other businesses within our community that do not comply with the ordinance like the bull. I would say to our aldermen have brought that up, who are they? Let it be known, because I'd like to go look at them, because if we're going to change the ordinance to allow something like the situation at Domenico's, then, okay, where else do we have that situation that doesn't comply with the ordinance, so that we make sure as we tweak the ordinance to accommodate that, we make sure we tweak it to accommodate these other ones. I'm a visual person, you know, and that helps me out to see, and helps me out to be able to offer and approve suggestions. So I think the fact of somewhere or other to give us some time, however Cole wants to come back later and come up with a motion we would have to do something to give all of us some time and to work through this process. You know, I think that's some direction that I think the board kind of generally agrees on. And then, you know, each one of us have got some due diligence that we need to do, you know, by reading that ordinance a little bit more, and by looking at these signs that we are told are believed to be out of compliance, so that we can visualize and offer that suggestion. And back to the situation with the animal or the device that doesn't have verbiage on it, I don't have any problem not doing them. I just assumed, you know what that nasty word does, I just assumed that was considered a sign. But if it's not considered a sign and they can do what they want, I don't have any problem with that, leaving that alone and not touching it. So, thank you.
Cool.
I think Carrie and I, we hear what you're saying. Just a couple of action items. I think if any of the members of the board or other staff have particular signs they have questions about or think aren't compliant, I want to know, well, why is that legal, but why is this not? If you would email those to both Carrie and I think that would help us, and I bet you're going to find that most of them are either or just come and ask. Yeah.
I can't, you know, sitting here and being here as long as I have, I can, you know, think of signs that are larger than what, you know, the properties would have allowed if they were to put up new signs. But those were all signs that were in existence prior to '99.
Right.
So we wouldn't mess with them at all unless something, you know, tore down the sign. Typically, when someone, an example would be wobbly boot sign. Wobbly boot sign, as it pertains to our ordinance, is too tall, it's too big, simply because Shoney sign was there and it was existing when they took it over, and, you know, their guys came in and refaced the wobbly boot sign on site, and there was no issues with that at all. We have a few of those, but I wouldn't say it's a lot, candidly, but I certainly don't, you know, the bull is so unique. It's so unique. You know, it's something most of the time a sign like that is going to be attached to the ground, and it's not moving away. It's not going somewhere. They would have reconditioned it there on site, and it would have been there. This one was able to be moved, so it's unique. So.
Yeah, but I guess our request would be is if, come see us, send us an email with any of the signs you're concerned with, and also if you would like to take a peruse through the sign code and say, tell me, give us your feedback on, gee, this feels too detailed, this feels too restrictive, this feels not restrictive enough. We'd appreciate your input before we, so we know what problem we're trying to solve for, because we both went to those Citizens Advisory Committee meetings as well, and there was a lot of discussion. A lot of it did actually center around off-premise signs, which is a whole different issue. But the conversation, I think Alderman Hoffman was recapping at the beginning, there were a dozen people on that committee, and there were about a dozen opinions. And so, if the more we can get some consensus on what direction we're going in, or if we just need to bring a menu of options to the board and let you guys decide.
Alderman Rucker.
One last item. I would like to request that staff, and we don't need to get into it tonight, because I don't want you guys to give me an answer out of your pocket. I would suggest staff come back to the next meeting and suggest to us what can be done to allow the bull to go back out on the parking lot during this time, moratorium, we're not using that word, but during the time, because if we're talking 3 to 6 months, I'd like for it to be out there some way or another, maybe not off the trailer, maybe on some chocks, or I realize there's safety, but come back with maybe something that we can do to accommodate that, rather than it have to sit in the back parking lot for this whole time while we're going through this. That's just my thought. If the rest of the board doesn't agree with that, that's fine.
Alderman Ross.
First of all, I agree with that, Kevin. But more importantly, the question around, well, give us some ideas of what you want. I'm going to try to describe this in like a quick sentence, and that is personally, I would allow a second sign that didn't allow our parkway to look like Vegas. Okay, I realize there's some subjectivity there, but that's the best guidance I can give at this point. And that trailers be secured more than just chalking. In other words, that doesn't mean they either be secured to the ground or they be blocked from moving. Best I can come up with for some guidance right now.
Alderman Hoffman.
I concur with what you just said. There's been I hope that everybody sees out there that how much effort and time has been put into this. This was being worked on before social media ever got a hold of it. Again, I commend our staff for tackling it and dealing with something that's just not a popular issue, and they've done a great job with that. And look, I think if you're wanting transparency and you want to hear it, we may come back and say that sign's just a little too big because it's going to crush every other business. And maybe that sign has to be a little smaller. Maybe it can stay exactly the way it is. I don't know. I don't think we're obviously not going to solve it tonight. We are looking into all of the options to make it fair for everybody. And I just appreciate everyone's candor tonight.
Anyone else? All right, does staff have direction then?
Yeah, we can bang our heads together.
Again.
All right. Very good. That is the last item on the new business. We'll move on to staff communications. I'll turn it over to the city administrator, Devin Lee. It's okay. Do you need help with that computer?
That was due to me.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't have much to report tonight. I did mention this in our meeting on Monday, but April and myself and Carrie Patterson and the mayor attended the Economic Development Symposium last week. It was really, really great. There were some awesome professionals there, and it was great to listen to them. But other than that, that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Assistant City Administrator.
On the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, Drew and I did receive 4 proposals back from that RFQ. And so we have sent those out to the steering committee to score, and we will meet back with them on December 3rd, I think, December 3rd or 4th. And so we plan to bring that to the board probably the first meeting in January. And then I just wanted to thank the Transportation Department and Parks Department, Eric, I know Ron, I know Jamie. There were several people that are working on all of these holiday lights and starting to spruce up City Hall and along the Parkway, and it looks really good. And I'm excited for the other items that we're working on too, for the changes, since it's not going to be down at the city park. So I'm thankful for that and anxious to see how that all shakes out.
All right. City Clerk, Tara.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight.
All right, City Attorney.
First of all, I just want to note on the board department update list, the guideline, the incentive guideline revisions are currently assigned to the city administrator, and that really should be me. Gina was working on those before she left, but those are now squarely on my desk. The second bullet. So that one, that's on my desk now. So Devin's got enough on her plate right now.
I'll fix that right now.
Second, I do have some good news. I think we all found out just before the meeting that sometime today the mall sold. Simon Property Group is no longer the owner. The buyer is a developer out of Kansas City, Sky Real Estate. We've been working with them for a few months on some code compliance issues at the mall that Simon, because Simon had kind of let it fall apart. The mayor and Devin and I met with them about a month ago or so. We've had a very good working relationship with them. They've been great to deal with, really easy. And sale closed today, and I think it's a great thing for the city that we have an owner that cares about the property now and wants to do great things with it. So we're excited to have them and wanted to tell them welcome to Osage Beach. That's all I have.
Very good. Chief Davis.
Everyone have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Safe travel.
All right. Building official, Ron White.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
All right. City Planner, Kerry Patterson.
I said enough tonight, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. IT, Michael.
Yes, sir, I'd like to speak about the signage, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just kidding, I have nothing.
All right, Gregory. Parks.
Yeah, very quickly, as April said, the Parks Department's been working very hard on putting up holiday lights along the Parkway and here at City Hall. And then most recently, we are planning, along with Jamie and several others, an additional Christmas event that's going to be held here at City Hall. Details to follow, but it's going to be a meet and greet with Santa and Mrs. Claus. I'd like to thank, again, Rob and the Street Department for transporting the shed over here and getting it in one piece up here. That's going to turn into Santa's house. So, and we're going to continue with the lights, and we're continuing with improvements on the dog park, and then we're going to transition back into the disc golf course, which we plan on having open by early next year. And that is all I have.
Very good. Airport, Ty Dinsdale.
Nothing to report.
All right, engineer, Drew.
I'd like to report for Ty that the hangar roof project at the Grand Glaze is done. Additionally, the slope stabilization project, I believe all work has been complete. It still needs final inspection. And there are numerous other projects going around the city still in various degrees of completion, but we are working diligently to deliver those projects.
All right. Zach Wilbur, Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to put it out there, the fall leaf program's kicking off. If you do not know when we will be by, there is a map and calendar on the city's website. On the city's website, lower left-hand portion is now, that you can just click on it. It'll give you all the information you need and when we will be coming by. Thank you.
Thank you. City Treasurer, Carrie Bell.
Yes, Mayor. The city currently has 4 active TIF projects that you are aware of. We have the oldest one is Deerberg's, Arrowhead, OB Commons, and the 4th is Lakeport Village. The state requires us by state statute to file reports annually, and they were due November 15th. I'm happy to report that those were due on time. And the Lakeport Village would not have been accomplished without Cole's assistance. That's basically Cole's report. But you can find those 4 reports updated on the city's website. They're under the city treasurer's department and TIF reporting, if anybody's interested in that. And the state compiles all of those and puts out an annual report that has all of the state's TIFs in those. That's all I have.
All right, very good. Alderman Rucker.
Yes, Mayor. I realize that the board and staff has spent numerous hours on budgets, but I do have to talk a little bit about that tonight, and it's some good positive things. First of all, thank you, Drew, who assisted me a couple months ago in going to the Osage Beach Special Road District and giving a presentation to them about the Safer Grant Act, all that it does, and how it works, and et cetera. And I'm happy to announce that I received notice today, officially, that the Osage Beach Road District is contributing $50,000 towards that grant. So that means that we originally had planned on a $50,000 contribution from some other organization that now is a $25,000 in kind, if that's going to comply or how that's going to work out. But anyway, the bottom line is $50,000, and Carrie, you'll probably get that the middle of next month. Okay. Secondly, to top that off, as if I guess I should have said earlier, some of this information is forthcoming now because they have been doing like we have, working on a budget, but of course not near as complex. Matter of fact, their budget's 2 pages. So, but anyway, they have been working diligently on it. And so the second thing that I want to announce to the board is that the Osage Beach Road Project, Old City Hall Drive is what I call it, but that project there, we will also be receiving a check the middle of next month towards that project of $150,000. So we will be receiving $200,000 from the road district next month. And it just comes in time before our final budget is approved. So we've got another $200,000 to spend in transportation. So I'm sure I've had a little bit longer to think about that than you guys because I've already got it done. So you don't need to think about it. I can tell you where it needs to go. So don't worry about that. So that's the good news I have to announce tonight. And I think that Mr. Schmidt's out there, spent many years on that road district doing good things, and the road district is still doing good things. And so I think if you get a chance to see him, give him a thank you for that. So that'll assist us in doing some other projects. So that's all I have to announce.
Very good, thank you. Alderman Barilla.
Just wanted to say I'm happy that we have one budget left, I think, and just a big thank you to the staff for the time you guys put into that. And that's it. Happy Thanksgiving next week.
All right, thank you. Alderman Hoffman.
Yes, I have 2 things, Mr. Mayor. One, and I really tried I've already talked a lot tonight, but unfortunately I have to talk a little bit longer. I always, at the end, when it's my time to speak, I always really want to keep it positive and highlight the great things our staff does or the movement in Osage Beach. A positive message is always nice. But tonight, I'm going to have to go the other direction with the first thing I'm going to talk about. And this is directed to William Holtz out there. Because I watched your program a couple days ago, and you wanted more information about the outlet mall. Well, you just got it. It closed today. You wanted information that, frankly, didn't exist. You're wanting a scoop that doesn't, there's nothing to tell you. So when you call down here and you're wanting information and we don't have anything to give you and you don't get the answer you want, you self-proclaim that you then go out to social media to fill in the gaps with information. Well, that's called clickbait. So the process has been happening for months. to see that the outlet mall would sell. And it's been contentious because it's fallen apart a couple times before. So both parties wanted confidentiality. They didn't want the city putting out information they didn't want out there. And we tried to respect that to the nth degree. We didn't want to put them in a bad spot that all of a sudden it would fall apart. Then if it does fall apart, who are you going to blame? I'm going to guess it would probably be us for putting too much information out there. So now you get the information. It's sold. The process went very well. I know from one of the individuals involved that they credit Cole Bradbury with being the main person to help that whole transaction. I know I've been working on it behind the scenes with a couple other aldermen for months. The mayor has been involved too. We've been working diligently. It is not our responsibility to put out there who is and who isn't buying property in Osage Beach. We are not a real estate company. We're the city. And we did our jobs. We went and facilitated the sale of a piece of land that has been a problem in Osage Beach for years. And I think we did a good job, and we did it in a way we respected both of the private parties who interacted in that. Now, as to why we don't communicate with you, I was prepared to come up tonight and send a little olive branch out to you and say, look, you know, we've got a great public information officer now. You know, I don't mind if I need to come on your show, I'll do that. I go on KRMS all the time. I go on there and they treat me fairly. They never spin my words around. They let me say what I can, and I usually will even give my opinion on where I think it might go, trying to get positive information out there. I was about to extend that olive branch, and then this morning, this is the email that was received at the city, sent to our new public information officer, and I'm allowed to read it because it's under the Sunshine Act, and it's public domain. And this is what you wrote. I won't entertain this charade any longer. Although I appreciate your tough position and the job you've been tasked to do, it's rather disingenuous to pretend your hiring fixes the issues and does the disrespect and continual lack of diligence shown by the elected officials of Osage Beach. If the residents didn't have water for months, causing a few to die due to dehydration, providing clean water down the road probably wouldn't undo the deaths realized by the initial problem. Does that make sense? No, that doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what you're talking about. And until you publicly apologize to our public information officer, who I spearheaded that position and find it to be very valuable in our city, and we were lucky enough to get a fantastic person to fill that position, and she's been doing nothing but exceeding my expectations, until you apologize to her publicly and start treating this board and our mayor and our staff with respect, you can continue to get the same reaction from us that you have had in the past. This is ridiculous. And I am not going to communicate or help someone or give them information or go the extra mile when that's the way you treat our city. And you say that you want to be a friend to Osage Beach, then demonstrate it, because that email certainly does not. My second thing, and this is a positive, Sean Kirksey is outgoing. He has put in his resignation at Camden. He's been a very long time friend. I am having lunch with him tomorrow. I'm happy to hear the insides of his plans. He always told me he was planning on playing on the senior golf tour. Don't know if he's still got that kind of game. But I want to say thank you very much to him. You know, the relationship has been rocky with the school, and I think what we have made inroads to repair that. We would not have the water loop going in down Nichols Road without Sean Kirksey, so I want to thank him for that, and I want to wish him the best in his future. So good luck, Sean. Look forward to seeing you on the golf course.
Thank you very much. Alderman Osteen.
I had a few things this evening. My first comments were regarding the sale of the outlet mall, although my comments aren't as fiery as Alderman Hoffman's. There have been many conversations and quite a few questions directed to the city regarding the sale of the outlet mall. I think it's important that the citizens of our community realize that that sale was between two private entities. And as such, the city was not part of any discussions, any part of negotiations. Therefore, we had very limited information on that sale transaction. That sale did not require any approval or authorization from the city. So the information we knew about that sale is just as much as any citizen in this community knew about it as well. The city has been accused of somehow withholding information regarding that sale, yet we had no information to withhold. Once again, this is a private transaction between two private entities. Why and when would the city have any obligation or have any rhetoric involved with that transaction? Yes, the city has been involved in previous attempts to purchase the outlet mall. That was strictly because those potential buyers contacted the city and worked with the city regarding their development plans and requesting tax incentives, not only to develop the property, but also to fund the purchase of the property. That is why the city was involved in those previous transactions. So, bottom line of what I'm trying to state with these comments are, please tone down the rhetoric regarding the accusations with the city and the sale of the outlet mall. When and if the new buyers approach the city regarding the development plans or discussing tax increments, will the city then be able to discuss or disclose information regarding the development or that sale? At this point, we're not involved in any capacity regarding that sale. That piggybacks a lot on what Alderman Hoffman stated, but once again, mine is more general to the public, stating that we know nothing more than they know at the end of the day. That's all I have to say on that topic. My next topic was I want to commend our city administrator, Devin Lake, our assistant city administrator, April White, and all of our department heads regarding all the work and effort they've put in the last several weeks regarding trying to set our budget for the city of Osage Beach for 2025. Regardless of all the conversations regarding the bull at Domenico's or the outlet mall, those conversations pale in comparison to this board's primary goal at this point, and that is our judiciary responsibility to balance a budget on behalf of our citizens for 2025. Basically, we need to act in regards to our responsibilities to our citizens and anticipate the needs and growth of our community. So yes, there are hot button topics out there, but at the end of the day, we are focused on setting our budget for 2025. My next comment is, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. On a lighter note, I feel we sometimes do not sit back enough and actually reflect on all the things we should actually be thankful for. A friend of mine sent me a post today, and it stated, "Your normal day is someone's dream." So be thankful for that every day. I think that is something we should all remember and a motto we should all live by. That is all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Rose.
I'd like to take Justin's speech and Bob's speech and put it right here, and then I will repeat it again. No, kudos.
You've earned that right. Yes.
It was a delightful day, and talking about Jamie and Eric and Rob Long. It was exciting, and I was with them this morning in regards to this shed that we were looking for, hopefully to be donated by a business, to put out here on our property, where we will decorate it, and Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus can be inside, and families can come and take pictures of their kids sitting on the bench by Santa Claus or whatever. Well, we touched base with a couple businesses, And, okay, one got back with us immediately within a couple hours and said they could not help us even with their parent company. And another business said they would get back with us as soon as possible. Well, in the meantime, the topic of the shed that's back here in the back property by the dog kennel, so to speak, you know, why can't that be moved? It's depending how dilapidated it is, but let's check it out. Well, thanks to Rob, and I don't know his gentleman who was with him, part of Public Works. Anyway, we're there and then talking to Eric and of how they could put this up and put it either on a trailer or at least get it substantial, because otherwise it may just crumble when you pick it up the way it is. Long story short, if you haven't noticed, it got moved today, and it's out there right in the corner where it's going to be decorated, and we're going to see if we can get paint donated, and just, anyway, it was a great day. And more than that, again, to reiterate, I'm sorry that all of this rhetoric came about with Domenico's and the bull, but it is what it is, and the city's doing everything we can to make it where everyone will be happy about it. We want the bull. We just have rules to go by with the compliance with the verbiage, but it'll work, and I know it will. And other than that, I'm thrilled to death about the outlet mall being sold after all this time. Looking forward to the future with that. And other than that, guys, stuff yourself with turkey and have a great day.
Thank you very much. Alderman Ross.
Some quick things. First of all, I assume the Transportation Department and Parks Department, I'm seeing the lighted decorations on the parkway. I think I'll be curious to see at the end of the year what the feedback is, because personally, I like them out on the parkway as well or better than I like them out in the park. And the park looks great. I was down there the other day, and by the way, I was amazed at how many people were at your dog park. Okay, we've talked about that. But I think that we're going to need more room than that, and I think Phoenix is going to have to be it one day, but that's just a whole nother subject. But more importantly, thank you all for getting those out there. And I didn't even realize when I pulled up that the shed out there had something to do with Santa Claus, but that's awesome too. So great job, folks. I'm going to expand a little bit on Alderman Hoffman's comments. When I saw the email that questioned this board's, and I think it was implied, this staff's lack of diligence and respect, I was more than appalled. I have been involved on and off with this city for over 20 years, and never, ever have I thought that there was a lack of diligence. I've been on many different teams. I think there's more diligence on this team of staff and board members than any team I've ever been on. And I find it absolutely ridiculous that someone would infer that, okay, and state that. I'm proud to serve with this board. I'm proud to serve with this staff. And the fact that someone believes that there's a lack of diligence and respect by either one is not living in any reality that anyone else around here knows about, okay? They need to check themselves, because they're the ones that are out of touch with reality. I'll leave a couple thoughts for Mr. Holtz. He's concerned about his ability to have access. We show up here every first and third Thursdays of every month at 5:30, okay? Stop by and say hi, okay? Sure, we can probably get it, because at the end of the day, and by the way, all of our numbers are on the website. My number is 573-286-0015. If you'd like to call me, I'd be glad to talk to you in a respectful way. So we're not hard to get a hold of. We just might not be available when they want and to do so that they can get the clickbait, which is a great comment that I didn't understand until you said it, so that they can get their ratings up or something, okay? Well, that's no reason to throw us under the bus, and that's ridiculous. So I will just say this. I've lived under a rule, and I'm going to expand on it, and that is familiarity breeds respect. And I think that respect invites respect. And I think that you reap what you sow. And so that may have something to do with the situation that Mr. Holtz is in. And with that said, I wish everybody a great Thanksgiving. Be safe and enjoy your families, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to be brief tonight. But I will tell you, the staff and board, I appreciate all of you. I too am proud to serve We don't always get it right 100% of the time, but we are always working to get it right 100% of the time. And we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we may or may not be able to divulge, but I can assure the city that everybody on the staff and up here in the board has the city's best interest at heart. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. I did, right before the meeting tonight, you'll probably hear more about it later. No decisions are made, but I was invited from Mayor Newberry of Lake Ozark and Mayor McNabb, some of the leaders around the state who were attending a meeting looking at the lodging tax and maybe how they can bring that back. We also were talking about, and tax is a lot of time a bad word, but we were talking about infrastructure as well. Mayor Newberry had the opportunity to go down and talk with the mayor of Branson, and they have quite a tax program where they let the tourists pay for the infrastructure and some of the other things within the city. So very, very beginning of that talk, I'll probably be coming to the board later with some of the discussions, but I do think that's something that I'm of the opinion that yeah, if we can have the tourists help pay for the infrastructure and maybe take some of the burden off of our citizens of Osage Beach with their bills, perfect. So that's what I did prior to this meeting, and I'll be informing you more as that goes. Also had the pleasure of myself and Devin and Ron and a bunch of people from here. I can't say we went to the Oasis property, and they had a very prestigious award with OSHA, where they teamed up with OSHA, and we are like one of 20 in the nation. Is that correct? Where OSHA comes in and they're teaming with, and you'll hear about it in the news. I hesitate to say a lot about it because I even left there and going, now seems like something really cool. What is it again? But we're one of the top in the nation as far as the safety measures that they've had and that they will continue to have at the property here. So you're probably going to see something out in the news. And it's not in a braggadocious way, it's just a very prestigious award that the Oasis received for their safety and what we're bringing to the lake. So that's good news as well. And the last thing is, and I had unfortunate, I don't want to say, I went to a very close friend's funeral up in Northeast Iowa Monday and Tuesday. You just never know, folks. So whether it's social media or whether it's people we have our differences with, let's try to act respectful towards each other, especially Thanksgiving, maybe before you throw out that nasty post or that nasty comment. Say, maybe I'll wait a couple minutes and think about it, because everybody up here is trying to do their best. We can do it with respect. And so everybody enjoy Thanksgiving and maybe just give a second thought before attacking. So have a great Thanksgiving. That's all I have. I need to read, and I did pretty good. Thank you for the IT, because I literally, Michael, Bean, and Travis, I went to them and said, all right, this is my first meeting doing the computer instead of paperwork, and Alderman Rucker, I made it. Well, not yet, I shouldn't say, because.
Count your chickens yet.
Yeah, because the executive session is not on here because I probably didn't, but I have my cheat sheet.
Oh, you got some paper?
I
Hey.
have the agenda and I even wrote down the page number in case somebody said something so I could go to it on the computer, but thanks to the IT for helping me with that. But at this time, I am going to ask the notices given that the agenda includes a roll call vote to close the meeting as allowed by as Resmo section 610.021, legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between the public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
Motion.
Alderman Rucker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose. Roll call vote, please.
Yeah, Alderman Hoffman,
Yes.
Alderman Barella. Yes. Alderman Rucker,
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rose,
Yes.
Alderman Roseanne.
Was this on a revised agenda I didn't see?
All right,
That's what happens when you don't look at your email.
meeting adjourned to go to executive session. Thank you, folks.
I guess